I was not
So-
even hooked up, unfortunately.
So
All
for
right,
a
well,
minute,
now we're in it, and
we are in it.
I'll be honest, our plans are ruined because you did not watch Batman.
I didn't watch Batman episode
Even though
1,
that-
and I
that
fucked
was-
up. All right,
That was your homework. No Batman was watched.
That's okay.
That's unfortunate. Have you seen? Last night I watched Blade. Have you seen Blade?
The vampire
Wesley
one?
Snipes.
No.
Yes. Okay, I can't. We can't comment on that.
Wait, why'd you watch Blade? Why? Just out of
I
curiosity?
just. It was on. I think it's newer, like added to Netflix.
Oh, okay.
And it was something.
Was it good? I heard it was. I heard the
Watch.
first 2 were good, and then the third one fell off. And honestly, I've
I
only
looked-
saw
after I
the
watched
third
the-
one,
You only saw the third.
but I barely remember it because I was like 13. So
Okay, after I watched the first, I was like, okay, what year is it? I think it's like
early 2000s, I think.
no,
has
it's
to be.
literally 90s.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was 98. I want to double check. 98. So it came out in 98, which did you see Underworld?
I did, but I barely remember that too. I remember really liking that and also having a crush on whatever her name is, Kate Beckinsale.
So it came out in Underworld came out in 03. So
I'm assuming you're gonna make a comparison.
yes.
Okay. Oh.
Because they're only like 5 years apart. But anyways, I would say Blade is exactly what you'd expect from like an action movie from that era, which is good.
Yo.
I was actually surprised because I was watching it and I was like, this is such a relief from like the copy paste Marvel movie that I see today. You know, I'm just tired of like the same superhero for the 10,000th time.
Yeah.
You know, with the same scripted comedy. Like the comedy's kind of like always the same in the
Okay.
new modern movies. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
let me tell you about the comedy, dude.
It's
I
almost predictable.
I liked the comedy in the start, but I just feel like it's forced on it now. Like I was telling you about that Moon Knight, that new Marvel superhero show that's out. I love the first episode. It's amazing, but they have to add comedy to everything Marvel.
have to.
And it's a great
Yeah.
it's a great episode, but it's now in their formula. So I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was kind of like bringing that up. And then I look it up, and I don't even know this. Blade is literally a Marvel movie.
Oh,
I
Blade.
didn't even know that.
They're gonna do a remake of Blade, and it's gonna be a part of the Marvel universe. I
I
forgot.
also figured that out yesterday while I was researching it, but I thought that was
Yeah.
interesting. That I was like, man, this is such a breath of fresh air just to see a nice late '90s action movie that was basically exactly how you'd expect it to be,
Yeah.
and not like a copy paste of like what you expect every Marvel movie to be now. And it was
Yeah.
a Marvel movie, so I was like, damn, okay, so Marvel, you know, maybe it was a little copy paste for the era, maybe, but
Well, it's known to be.
I thought it was
good
pretty
movie.
cool. Like the
Oh,
first scene of the movie, I thought was fucking sick. Like,
dude,
like,
that
totally
movie is
fucking
known
cool.
to be like a lot of people still really dig that movie. So yeah, I need
Like-
to see it. It's on my list. It's on my list for
The
sure.
first scene.
You can
Spoil it for you?
Yeah, you can spoil it for me. I don't. know.
Is like literally some like, you know, it's if you know at this point, you know, it's about vampires, right? So the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
scene is like some chick dragging this like goofy aloof guy along, and this chick's like hot, and he's like, oh, okay, where are you taking me? Obviously, you know, right off the bat,
Yeah,
she's
he's-
a vampire. He's
yeah.
gonna take advantage of, right? Because she's like taking him through like this meat packing facility. He's like, wow, where are we going? It's like, okay, cheesy, we know what the fuck's gonna happen,
Yeah.
right? And she like brings him all the way to the back, and we go, and she opens the door of like a freezer, and it's like a late '90s underground rave, bumping like the techno music
Oh
you
my
expect.
god,
And it's just
dude.
so fucking sick, dude. All the people are just dancing
Yes.
around exactly how to expect them to.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of fucking cool. Like everyone in the crowd's being a dick to him though for some reason. He's like super confused, and the chick just ditches him to dance to some other chick.
Yeah,
So he's just
I would
like
be
kind of pissed,
confused.
like what's going on?
Yeah.
And then like the song hits like a climax, and the DJ goes like this, and the lights go on behind him, and it's like the thing behind him lights up. It's a banner that says Bloodbath, and then all the sprinklers go off, and everyone keeps dancing, and it's just sprinkling blood on everybody.
Oh shit.
And it's just like
Holy
fucking
fuck.
sick, and the guy's like disgusted,
Dude.
and then he looks around and he's like screaming. They all start to like show their fangs and stuff, and then right when he starts to like run away, and they're like dragging him to the ground, fucking Wesley Snipes just fucking busts in the door, fully clad in like this
Oh
leather,
my god.
with like an
dude.
armor thing on his chest, just looking sick as fuck with sunglasses inside underground. So fucking sick. Pulls out his shotgun and starts blowing people up. Like it was just cool. And it was only meant to be cool. It wasn't meant to be deep.
Yeah.
There was like there wasn't a whole lot of comedy at all in like the entry scene at all. It was just like grounded action scenes. I thought it was fucking dope.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really good opening to the movie. And kind of, I was just kind of like, yeah, these late 90 movies were just dumb fun. And it was nice because I hadn't seen Blade before for
Hmm.
me to see some new IP
Hmm.
instead of Batman 15 or something. So
Dude.
I enjoyed that, but I also once you see the movie, you go like, holy crap! I don't know if Blade is maybe Blade is take copying something else, but
Which
you know,
is
so maybe
fine. Who cares?
maybe there's an original IP. Well, just because I'm saying that if Blade is kind of original in what it's doing, then Underworld definitely copied Blade,
Oh, I see.
or they
Okay.
copied what Blade is copying
Hmm.
because Underworld takes like a lot of things just
From
straight
Blade?
from it,
Oh
like right
shit.
across
I
from
think
Blade.
I feel like I would like Blade more than Underworld. So, yeah, just about that, dude. Just that scene you
They're
described.
pretty
I need to
they're
fucking
pretty
see it.
different.
I, okay. Well, let me just say something real quick. The '90s, I miss '90s action. It's so fucking good. It's like I'm thinking about the Matrix. Also, like that is,
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah, and Wesley Snipes comes in head to toe in like a
Yeah,
fucking leather, like a leather coat, right? With like
dude. Yeah.
body
What?
armor underneath. That's all black. Everything's black with black shades. Instantly, you're like, this guy's it's Neo,
What
right?
a
Like
what a
instantly off the
weird
bat, it's the same
era.
vibe.
Dude, what a weird era. It's just like between in the late '90s, there was this obsession with leather and fucking underground raves and fighting, but it is something that
Because it was like taboo and cool still, you know.
yeah, dude, I miss that. I just miss trying to be like cool because I feel like a lot of movies nowadays are just they try to they try to be good forever. Like they try to make something that's like not just like it has to be politically correct. It has to, appeal to a mass audience more than just because I feel like people who would get the Blade underground rave isn't going to be like people in China, which is what all the companies are trying to appeal to is
Could
overseas
be.
markets.
Yeah,
It's
would someone in China understand like an underground '90s rave scene from a movie?
okay.
I'm not quite sure
I'm
because
not
I'm
quite
not familiar.
sure, but I feel like because they're trying. So regardless if they would or wouldn't, I feel like because movies are companies are trying to appeal to China or movie companies, they wouldn't do something more like that for like the bigger budget Marvel movies, like for
Hmm.
Blade. Like they made Blade like this because it's like you're making it for an American audience, and I think, in my opinion, you make something unique for the American culture. It's like that can have mass appeal to people in China and stuff like that. But that's just like everyone thinks with money, and it's
Hmm.
yeah. So it's everything is just very
Well,
formulaic because of
I think
that.
there's another side of this, which is like completely encapsulated just in like American culture. That's
Hmm.
an issue, which is part of the reason why I feel like Marvel feels the need to cut everything cool with comedy as like kind of like a backbone.
Yeah.
There's like almost like a comedic backbone to everything. Like no matter how serious the scene gets, you know that like it's still funny. Like they're gonna crack a joke somewhere,
Yeah. All the
and I
time.
feel like part of that is because
Hmm.
we like for some reason, and I don't know if it's kind of like when online trolling started to become a thing. The word edge lord kind of
Hmm.
started to become a thing because when Wesley Snipes busts in the room in full head to toe leather, looking like Neo, nowadays people are like, "Oh, you're such an edge lord,
Yeah,
right? You must
that's
think you're
another thing.
so cool." It's
You're
like
right.
the cynical part of it. It's like, no, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, dude. He looks fucking cool, and we don't need to crack a joke to say that like, "Oh, we're self-aware."
Everything
That
has
it's like
exact
over the top.
self-aware, and everything
It's
has to
like
be
no.
meta, dude. It has to be like
Yeah, it's
yes.
like no, it doesn't have to be. Wesley Snipes can fucking rock in there, head to toe leather with a shotgun and with shades on underground, and
Yeah.
we don't have to go like, oh, he's trying too hard. We can go like, no, he's just that cool, and that's okay.
Just
I'm
take a
not that
risk.
cool. He is that
Yeah.
cool, right? It
Exactly.
doesn't have to be like cynical and like meta and like add comedy and that we know we're going over the top. Just let it be, bro. It's a movie character. He's way cooler than you'll ever be, and he is cool.
Yeah.
Accept
I
it.
I
He's
agree,
cool.
completely agree with that. They're well, two things. One is like I can't really think of movies nowadays that are just like straight up action films that aren't like self-aware. Like I feel like the straight up action films that we knew from back in the day are just they're kind of dying out. You can't really make them anymore because everything is super self-aware. Like even I guess maybe John Wick is the only one, but Yeah, but even in John Wick, it's like he gets beat up a
Wasn't
lot.
a ton of comedy in John Wick.
Yeah, but he's not like he's like not like invincible, you know? He's not like this cool invincible action figure. He's like more he's a bit different. He's very cool, but and he does beat up a lot of people, but or maybe that's the only one. I don't know. I'm still
I'd actually
trying to
say
think
I'd
this
almost
through.
like see John Wick as almost a counterpoint to like mainstream action, and the fact that it kind of is like a callback to
Yeah.
just like it almost reminds me a little bit of what would it remind me a little bit of? I guess it would remind me a little bit of the original Punisher, if you remember that movie.
I was gonna bring that up and I forgot. Dude, that's
Because
another good
in
Marvel
that
movie.
He
Oh,
kind of like he's kind of retired. Back I don't even know what year that was. Back when they're
I don't
making
remember.
really good IP, or I guess it's kind of the first time they're making it. Obviously, at that point, Punisher isn't like new, but it was kind of new to film. I'm
yeah,
pretty
new to
sure.
film. I'm pretty sure it was new to film.
Um,
Yeah.
And if you compare these movies like Blade to Punisher, they're radically different formulas for how they're made. Like they were completely different in the way that they were brought to life. I think that's what makes them so interesting.
Yeah.
But I was going to draw that parallel because I think they seem pretty similar. Like John Wick is kind of like retired. The Punisher guy is kind of like retired, right? And then in the Punisher, they go and kill all his family. And John Wick, they go and they kill his dog. And then he's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, now I'm going to come and kill fucking
Oh, that's
all
interesting.
of you.
Yeah.
So like that, there's a pretty similarity there. So you could almost see John Wick as being kind of like a more modern
Yeah, I guess
Punisher.
John
Maybe I'm
Wick is
making a
like
stretch. But
no, I think you're right because you know it's funny. I try to use him as an example, but the more I think about it, you're right. He's like that people like that stuff still, and you can still kind of see it in John Wick because John Wick is I don't see much
do what?
comedy in
They
there.
did 3 of them, right?
Yeah,
Probably
um,
more than they needed.
Although
to.
there was more comedy in the second and third one, and I could barely remember the
I
second.
only
and
watched
third
the
one.
first and the third. I didn't actually watch the second.
Dude,
I
it's
think I remember watching the third and going, the first was definitely better.
yeah, that's it.
Which
In
was
my
expected.
mind, I can still remember the first. Like it's just printed in my mind. But the second and third, I can barely remember. I just remember being in theaters and being like, okay, there's some cool scenes and there's some like I know they added some more modern funny stuff to it, but
And John Wick even drove like the cliche muscle car too, right?
yeah, dude, yeah.
Because that's the same car they drove in the Punisher. That's the same car they were that Blade was driving as well.
Yeah.
That same muscle car.
The coolness, bro. We like cool, but you know, maybe this goes into toxic masculinity or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Jesus.
I don't know. I don't know if it's that. I don't know. Maybe it's just not marketable anymore. Obviously, John Wick is.
I think you can
exception.
only make a badass character and his badass muscle car of the same exact brand go on his little revenge story so many times until you have to become cynical about it, possibly.
But that's how I feel like. I feel like all of Hollywood is cynical though. Like Star Wars is super meta with The Last Jedi, and
I think part of that is if you don't exactly have the capability to create something completely new, your only ability is to kind of become cynical about the regurgitation of the ideas which you're making, right?
Okay.
So if you're not able to come up with, something completely fresh, and instead you're kind of coming up with, a rehashed version of like maybe the original Blade or Punisher formula for like
Yeah.
50th time,
yeah.
all you're left to do is kind of become cynical. And that might just be like, I think that might boil down to lack of creativity to like really make something new, possibly. Maybe that comes down to why they have so much comedy also instead of the Marvel movies, because at a certain point they have to go like, the knight in shining armor scene for the 50th time, you have to just make a joke about it eventually, right?
Yeah, I think that's funny you bring that up because I did have a thought the other day when I was watching I forgot what I was watching. It was just a random TV show I was trying to get into Netflix, but I felt like I felt like the writers were scared to commit to whatever they were doing. Like let's say it's the muscle guy like Wesley Snipes or John Wick. Like they were like scared that they had to make it like meta. Like they had to make a joke about it. It's like I feel it's almost like the writers don't think they're competent enough to make something like what you're saying is like they have
Or
to
maybe
critique
they're
something.
worried that they're gonna be called like 14-year-old teenage edgelords
Something like
because
that,
they
yeah.
wanna they want to make a new Arnold Schwarzenegger with a cigar and a giant machine gun,
Yeah.
and not do it as a joke. Do it like, I actually think this is cool. I think a big buff dude with a giant gun is cool, and I'm not doing it as a joke. Like maybe they just think that if they try to do that, people are just going to point and laugh.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I could see that being a thing. But I'll tell you what, the Terminators were great movies, and they weren't constantly under. There was comedy in those, but Arnold Schwarzenegger was cool. He was cool in like all his action movies.
Yeah.
I think it's like okay to still do that. Maybe it's just been overdone too much, and they're scared.
I just don't like or I'm like over it now. Like that I'm over the over like self-aware movies. I'm just so over that right now.
Yeah, because
just
I like to
everywhere.
get immersed.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
You know?
It's just overdone. There's some movies that do it really well. It's just overdone. I'm
Super
tired of
overdone.
it. I'm tired of it.
I'd
And they
rather
think
like
they're
have
smart.
like an actual film, like Dune, right? Which is
Yes.
not like that's not a movie that's self-aware, right? It's just
Yeah.
a fucking film. It's a piece of art, right? It's somewhat original to film, unless you count the old one, which I feel like most people haven't even seen. So
I haven't seen it. That's for sure. I'm not gonna go see it.
and it's gonna be easier to like do that and not be self-aware when you're at the cutting edge, rather than if this was Dune 7, like maybe at that point you have to start making fun of yourself eventually.
I don't think you do. I really don't. I think I don't understand.
Maybe
I
you
know.
don't.
Yeah.
I think that's okay. Like I've been watching old movies. Another unabashedly like we're an action movie. We're cool. We do things great. I just watched Jason Bourne again.
Oh, that was such a good.
And I'm sorry, like throughout the entire movie, he's constantly acting perfectly to the second, constantly outsmarting every single situation that comes down to him, like a fucking mastermind genius. It's insane. It's completely unrealistic, and it is so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
So like maybe it's a meme now, right? Like Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne, but I like that. That was fun.
Yeah.
I didn't see the most recent Bond movie. So
Oh yeah.
you said that was good though, so.
Okay, well the thing is like the villain was awful in that Bond movie, but I just like Daniel Craig. He's my favorite Bond, and I'm not like a
Blonde
huge
one,
Bond. The what one?
He's the blonde one, right? They haven't changed.
Yeah, they haven't changed him. He's been the same one
Okay,
since
yeah.
Casino Royale. Yeah,
Casino
so
Royale,
this
yeah.
was his last film. He's just really good. He nails being Bond. I like it. And in this movie, he's old,
Oh, he's good.
which I appreciate because he is old in real life. Like you can see he's old and he takes hits, and
And
he's
a lot of the
obviously
older
hurt.
Bonds, they had like I forget which one it was, but they had a really old actor playing Bond for a while, and it worked fine.
Yeah, and like I generally had a good time watching Bond. It was a little bit too long. I'm trying to remember it, but the only thing that stood out to me is that's another thing that I've okay, so this is another problem. That was weighing this Bond movie down and weighs a bunch of movies down is that they try to like tie everything together, like from all the other movies they try to or the Daniel Craig movies they try to make it all like make sense and have an ending to it. It just made it worse. It made it convoluted. And then they had to add a villain, right? And this villain was stupid, barely in it. Really makes stupid. They don't spend any time on these villains, and like this villain makes stupid decisions that you would expect a villain to be smart enough to like. Can I give spoilers or something?
Yeah, that's fine.
If I remember correctly, like the villain has Bond's kid, right? And he has
Yeah.
Bond's kid hostage. But for some reason, instead of like holding this over Daniel Craig or something like that, he brings the kid with him near Bond, and I'm just like, well, that's just gonna make it so you might get Bond might be able to take it back, and they don't check Bonds like for weapons at certain points because he's trying to prove a point. And also he doesn't leave the base when he's supposed to leave the base because he wants to prove something because he wants to fight Bond or something like that. It makes no sense why he would make those decisions. Like he could be out in a tower in the middle of nowhere and he would win. Like Bond would not even fucking have a chance. But it's just stupid. So Yeah, I have a
Bad
problem.
villains.
So okay, so
Kind
bad
of a
villains.
problem.
I just want to say bad villains, yes. So we could get into that, but also tying everything together, which is the other thing I was trying to say. Like everything has to be a trilogy, everything has to be a sequel. So it's like fuck, man. It's just leave movies to be on their own. Like I
The
like
need for everything to be a trilogy kind of sucks.
yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. It's just, and the thing about this villain too, it actually combines, is this villain had to be somehow related to all the other villains in Daniel Craig's Bond, and it's just like, I don't know.
No one
man.
even remembers them, dude.
I don't. They were all
think I
bad.
remember the bad guy from Casino Royale? Like, what the
I did
fuck?
that
don't
one.
know.
I did that one. I actually liked
you
him.
never-
Bad Mickelson. Yeah, dude. So don't hate. That one was good. All the other ones were
Dude, I haven't
bad.
seen that movie in like I don't even know how long it.
I love that one. The one that was I really liked was Nightfall. I think it's called Nightfall. Or that could be a Guild Wars expansion. I don't know, but
It might be both.
that villain was good, but it was a one-off villain, and I loved it. Like he served his purpose. He pushed Bond to his limits. He wasn't just there for show. So yeah, I don't know. I think I've been watching too many
One-off
superheroes.
villains. You definitely have one-off villains. I mean,
Yeah.
in the Dark Knight trilogy, I mean,
Like the Joker's.
those were 3 one-off villains, and Joker was like kind of renowned as like, that's one of the greatest performances, like an antagonist, like ever.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just feel like everything has to be. I want to see more movies that aren't sequels. That's it. I just want to see like one movie on its own. I'm tired of
New IP,
new
right?
IP.
Or at least
I
untapped
guess.
IP.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, every new IP that comes out now is somehow incorporated into the greater Marvel universe. Like, it's like, dude, I don't like, just give me new IP. If it's an old Marvel comic, that's fine. But I don't need fucking Doctor Strange or Spider-Man swinging into my new IP. Just let it be new. Let it be its own thing. Now that they've done Avengers, everything has to be incorporated, right? Like, they have to find a way for Ant-Man to fit in to the Avengers. And if they're going to bring in Blade, like they said they were, I saw that. They also hinted that, like, Doctor Strange is going to be in it. I'm just like, just separate them, dude. Not everything has to tie into, like, the new, like, Avengers 5, which is going to have every Marvel. Like, why can't something just stand on its own 2 feet? Like, Iron Man doesn't come blasting through the basement in the new Blade for it to be a good movie, you know?
So I agree and disagree. So I don't want, so when it comes to like comic books, so the difference between Bond, James Bond, and comic books, or when I see a new IP and they're like, okay, this is gonna be a huge fucking like trilogy, even though it's meant to be, obviously meant like the story finishes at movie 1. The difference between that and like the Marvel universe is I like that everything's interconnected, but it's just done so poorly.
No, because I mean, you have to realize what you're giving up for them to tie all of that in. Because here we're talking about like how we hate how everything's intercut with comedy, how everything's a little bit cynical, how everything feels like a copy paste of the last one. Well, if you're gonna try and fit all of these characters into all of each other's movies and have them all work inside the same universe, then you're gonna have to direct every single fucking movie in the same exact style. You can't have Blade be like some weird noir, like black and white film, and then he just shows up in full color, swinging around in the new Avengers. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you can't take risks.
One of the movies in the Marvel universe, if you're going to try to keep them perfectly interconnected so that they can make an appearance in Avengers, have to basically all follow the same scheme, or else it's going to be really weird if they have like a totally unique art style and then you bring them into this new movie.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, you can like that if you want, but that is the reason that everything's copy paste. It has to be that way if it's going to work.
So I completely agree with you. Like it takes away the creative freedom for all these other superhero movies, which I do also want. Like I agree with you, and I want this. But the thing is, like, I also think what they're doing with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it has never been done before, and I think it's one of the coolest things to ever be done. It just kind of sucks that it's just fell off.
I mean. When you say that, it's like it's never been done before. Yeah, except for the last 10 times they did it. You know? Like, how many Avengers are there?
Oh,
right?
that's
like,
what I mean.
How many cameos do we have? Like, yeah, it's not like they did it once and it's like, wow, this has never been done before. It's like they've been doing it. You know,
Yeah,
like
well,
over
yeah,
and
it's
over and over.
mhm.
So it's kind of like, yeah, it was cool that they were able to do that. And the idea of it, when I first heard of it, I think the idea first got floated back like when Iron Man came out or something like that.
Yeah,
That they
Iron
were
Man
going to
1.
end up doing this. It was like
Yeah.
it was a super cool idea.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the line, things kind of changed a little bit. Like Captain America Winter Soldier came out, that was really fucking good, but honestly it still had its own style, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, it did.
But as we got closer to the convergence of everything, all of the movies became more and more like each other.
Mhm.
And then we had Avengers, and now every movie's, regardless if you're watching Ant-Man or Iron Man 5,
Mhm.
or Guardians of the Galaxy 7, they all kind of seem like the same movie. Like if you were to glance over and it's like Guardians of the
Mhm.
Galaxy 3
Yeah.
or whatever, um, and then glance back, you may go like, wait, was that, and you only watched like, it's like a little bit of it, like glance over, watch it, and come back. And I asked you, okay, was that Guardians of the Galaxy or was that Thor Ragnarok? You might go, I'm not sure because there was some cameos and
Yeah.
like you might actually not know. So, like
So
as these things have converged, now we've reached the point to where now it's just like everything started in different places, came to a point, and now we're just reprinting that point over and over again in like a straight line.
yeah, I agree that yeah, no, I agree. Like it's gotten bad to the point where like the things that are coming out now are really looks like it's cookie cutter. It really looks like it's very formulaic. Like I didn't even I watched some of Black Widow's movie. It's so formulaic, you know. Some of these Marvel shows coming out, like they had Falcon and the other guy, super
No one cares about
formulaic.
these characters.
Yeah, the Brie Larson one, Captain Marvel, same thing, formulaic. But but the thing is, like, it doesn't have to be that way. So like let's go back to the Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier it was interconnected to all the other Marvel movies at the time, and it also changed and moved the universe forward. So it had consequence because at the end of the movie it disbanded Shield because it had a bunch of like whatever the story was, just secret double agents and stuff like that. It felt like it was unique enough because to me it felt like a spy movie. So it was unique in its own way,
Yeah.
but it also was interconnected enough to where you could bring other characters and affect the universe in other movies. So you had Black Widow in there, you had Samuel L. Jackson's character in there, and you had the Winter Soldier, or you had Captain America, and you brought in the Winter Soldier, and you brought in they brought in other Marvel characters like that. That is awesome. Another movie I could think of that's like that is Thor Ragnarok. That movie's awesome. It's like unique and it is unique enough, It's like that had comedy that was really funny to me when I was first watching it. It brought
Yeah.
Thor and Hulk together. It progressed the story enough where it bonded Hulk and Thor together, which I like personally as someone who like grew up watching comic book stuff. Like I want to see more of the superheroes together because you're in this universe. The thing that pisses me off the most is like after the first Avengers, the first movie that comes out is Iron Man 3. What happens to Iron Man 3? It's his own fucking story. And for some reason, it has nothing to do with the Avengers. Like the president gets kidnapped, and yet all the other Avengers are gone. I fucking hate that. It's like, dude, you have the Avengers. Incorporate them in your story. Somehow make it make sense. In the end of the first Avengers movie, he left with Hulk. Why isn't Hulk not in Iron Man 3? And you know what happened with Iron Man 3? It was super formulaic. It was just like, it was super forgettable, and it doesn't seem like it had any consequence at all. Like it was just this it's movie on its own that had no consequence, and almost anything that happened in this little space didn't affect anything at all. I want every movie to affect the whole universe and keep moving on. So I like that. So what I'm trying to say is there's a balance, If they kept the quality of Winter Soldier and Thor Ragnarok throughout all the whole movies, it would be different.
I think that's a lot easier to do at the beginning. But now it's like you keep introducing more and more and more, and like more of the universe gets kind of like pushed into like this single plot, right? As you bring in all these different elements from the outside, like they're losing their ability to be creative and do their own thing. Like they can't just be like, well, I want to do like Hulk in this style. It's like, well, you're not. You're gonna do him in the style we did him. and what he does has to make sense in accordance to what happened in the last time he was seen. So
Yeah.
you're gonna have to make sure you keep that in mind. And also, like you said, like if something happens with Iron Man, like, well, you better keep account for the Avengers and what they're doing, because why wouldn't they be here? So like yeah, I'm not saying, is it impossible for them to be good? Like of course not, and they have been good, but I think we're getting to the point to where there's a lot of constraints, creative constraints that are a big struggle. There's like logistical issues of just like incorporating all of these different Avengers into your movies when it makes sense, even when you don't want your movie to necessarily be about Hulk. Well, maybe he needs to be there because it makes sense, right? Because what you're doing is going to affect his plot line over there. It's hard to do a one-off now.
Yeah.
What if you wanted to do something crazy, like, you like really fucking injured a main character? It's like they're gonna be like, well, hold up, bro, we're about to use him in fucking Iron Man 4. You can't like hella injure this guy because we really need to use him.
Yeah.
So you can't ruin the plot like that. So like they're really clamping down, and they're also just kind of pushing out a lot of content.
Okay.
There's a lot of content coming out.
So there's two things. I need to start writing this stuff down so I can remember what I want to say or the points I want to touch on.
Okay.
But now I have a notepad open, which I didn't get to use. I was too late. Okay, so I agree. The last thing you said is something I wanted to say. Yeah, they threw so much at this universe, bro. So much. You're right. So many useless superheroes like Captain Marvel and a bunch
We
of
need
shit.
the Ant-Man.
Or the
I'm
Ant-Man.
sorry.
I like
How could Ant-Man just be a spin-off that didn't connect into the universe? It was okay comedy. Just why'd it have to connect into the universe? Like, not
Yeah.
everything has to, in my opinion.
Okay, so that is interesting. There should be Marvel movies that are just complete spin-offs, because then if it's complete spin-offs, that opens a lot of creativity right there. Because it's
Yeah. If they remake Blade, does he really have to incorporate into the universe, bro? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
There's not, in the current Marvel universe, there was no vampires. Like, why just let it be its own thing? If
oh
they
no, they're
remake Blade-
vampires. There's vampires. You just don't know about it yet. They're gonna introduce them, and Okay.
See, it's just kind of annoying. Like, I hope if they like remake something like Blade, they can like hold off the addiction of everything has to be connected, because everything doesn't have to be connected. It's going to become unmanageable, and you're going to ruin things.
So let me just say this now. In my view, they're already fucking up. So I want things interconnected, right? But they threw so much shit, and they put so many movies out there where I think these movies, they broke the rules, or not the rules, but they did things that I'm sure the next movie just doesn't make no sense. Like, they have to like write it off in a different way. Like, you have to mention something like, oh, Jane Foster is gone from the second Thor 2 movie. Like, where did she go? Oh, she's just gone somewhere. It's what I think is it already became unmanageable. They already had so many movies that don't even think about the flow. Because for me, what pissed me off originally is that they weren't going with the flow. Like, they had too many of these movies like Iron Man 3 where they're doing their own thing, which had no consequence, and then they had to like kind of explain it away, and they kept doing that. It was like, oh, this happened, oh, we kind of have to explain that, it's like whatever. Oh, Wakanda exists, and they've always been with the Wakandan people have always been around. Okay, then why haven't we seen them? Oh, we have to explain it away there. It's like, dude, it's just take your fucking time. Stop. It's already unmanageable because you kept throwing fucking heroes after heroes over there. So they already fucked up.
The Black Panther could have been a better movie if they didn't feel the need to tie it in to everything else.
How do you mean?
To be honest.
Oh, how do you mean?
If they didn't feel the need to Black Panther has to be in the same exact style, right?
Okay.
Because when I think of it, like, I keep coming back to Blade. Like, Blade was like so unique in comparison to style. I'm just going back there because it's another African American male lead, right?
Okay.
So I compare that to, okay, what's another version of that in this Marvel universe? And it's like, okay, well, that's gonna be Black Panther.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Black Panther has to kind of like abide by like the same rule set as all these other movies that are coming out. And I kind of wish it didn't, because one, it felt rushed. Because when I saw the previews for it, I thought it looked cool. Like some of the action scenes with his suit, I'm like, this looks really fucking cool.
He was introduced.
And I watched it, and I'm like, this is kind of more like a train wreck.
He was introduced in another Marvel movie. I forgot which one. I don't know if it was an Avengers or it was something else. But he was so badass in that movie.
He was sick. He was fucking cool.
Fucking awesome. Yes. And then his movie sucked. Yeah. At
And
least,
then his movie
yeah.
sucked, and now we're having Wakanda Forever, which is like his fucking sister. Like nobody cares,
Oh
bro.
god, dude.
And let me guess,
Oh
she's
my
gonna have to be
God.
incorporated in the story too. She's gonna be the next Avengers. It's getting too much, man. Like no one really cares about that. The first Black Panther wasn't that good.
Yeah.
The ending was pretty.
It's already fucked. In
Shit.
my opinion, it's already fucked because if I was like, and I know everyone says this, if they were in charge, but if I was in charge, you know, I would have definitely taken more time and focused and brought less. Okay, so because you and I are in two different points right now, I think what they did is really cool, bringing all these movies together and then like combining them into some like, you know, an Avengers movie. Like I think that's fucking awesome. Having a comic book world and a cinema in cinema is fucking amazing. You know, I love that Iron Man could be doing his thing and then all of a sudden, you know, Black Widow is also there. It's just like, whoa, okay, that's really cool. I like that. But I also understand your point of having, you know, movies stand on their own because dude, that opens up creative freedom, you know? Like like I could think of like the Punisher, man. Like there's no way they could do original Punisher, which I think it was for the longest time was one of my favorite movies because it was so fucking badass, you know. But
It doesn't even make sense to try to incorporate him now because there's a bunch of superheroes.
he's
and
already
pretty
there.
much
He has his own show.
Yeah, but I've never seen it. I don't
It's
think
actually
anyone's
pretty
watching
good.
that.
No. It was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. It is definitely not as
Did
hard.
they incorporate it into the Marvel universe in a way that
Okay,
made sense?
so so this gets back to where I was saying, like, they did shit without thinking it through. So Daredevil, I don't know if you've seen Daredevil. Have you seen Daredevil? The
Like
show?
a little bit.
Okay, so
The
Daredevil
movie was good. I'll say that. The original movie was fucking good.
with Ben Affleck?
Yes. Well, I mean, I liked it. I don't know.
I liked it. Dude, I liked it too.
don't
I was
know.
gonna
It's a
say,
guilty
people
pleasure. All those old movies are a guilty pleasure. That
people
was a fun
shit
movie.
on it. I loved it. Fucking
I thought it was
Carmen
great.
Electra. That's a porn star, I think. I mean, Electra. I mean,
Wait,
she was.
who's the chick you're talking about? What's her name?
He ended up marrying her in real life. I think it's Electra or something.
Oh, Carmen Electra is
Oh, that
the
is.
person.
Okay, cool.
Oh,
not the super. Who is Carmen?
what type of actress is this?
Oh shit! She works in special films. Wait,
Singer.
Oh yeah, that is not who I'm talking about. It is
I was gonna say I don't think.
Daredevil Electra. It's Daredevil
I think you're-
Electra.
Are you sure it's Electra?
It is Electra. I just looked it up. Yeah, it is. It was played by his ex-wife, fucking Jennifer Gardner. Yeah, she was fucking badass. I thought she was one of the coolest parts of the movie.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the coolest part, like, that's back when they're like playing Evanescence, you know?
Oh, dude,
that
yeah.
one
Oh
in the
my
rain.
god, dude.
Oh my god.
Oh my, yeah. That is.
That's a good movie. I don't know.
I just think the music in the early 2000s was also kind of peak. I'm not gonna lie. Deftones, that band. Yeah, I don't know. It was fucking awesome. I forgot what I was getting at, but yeah. No, so I see your point. I just oh yeah, the Daredevil and Punisher thing. They made it really fucking dark. Like, you know, all the Marvel stuff that you see in the movies. Well, when you watch
Yeah.
Daredevil and this Punisher show, both of them very little humor, very bloody, very fucking dark. And
Oh really? Okay.
it they didn't really reference the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So actually, we didn't really know if it was a part of it or if it was just a spin-off show. And then they did their own, they made other shitty shows like Luke Cage and Iron Fist or whatever, and they did their own little thing over there. Only recently with the new Spider-Man did they tie in Daredevil from that show into the cinematic universe. So now it's all tied in. But then when you go back and watch the shows, you're just like, what the fuck? Because there's a lot of shit that happens.
You're like, well, then where
in
the
New York
fuck was
City.
Spider-Man?
Yeah,
all
exactly.
this time?
Yes, and so it's just they don't know
Yes,
what
I mean,
they're doing.
it is
man.
cool that they're kind of like.
It's too much. It's too much.
That kind of seems to be what they do. Like they kind of like make the Marvel, the grand Marvel universe, cinematic universe, right? And then when they want to do things a little more creative, they kind of like break off into little shows. But in my experience, especially with like, because this isn't exactly as true with anime, but it's really true with live action in my opinion. Is movies are much higher quality than like live action TV shows.
Yeah.
So like yeah, maybe they can be creative when they break off and to like make a Daredevil TV show, but a Daredevil TV show just and from what I'm not a big aficionado in this because I'm a little marveled out and I haven't really checked out a lot of these things. When I do check
That's
them
fine.
out,
Yeah.
they usually come off as kind of mediocre. Like I
Yeah.
don't know of any Marvel spin-off show that is like the Dark Knight trilogy or kind of
Mhm.
comparable to like any sort of like really good movie I would think of. They're usually just kind of like it's a bingeable TV show. And that's kind of like what I think they kind of all digress down into,
Yeah.
basically. And I think that's going to be like a natural pattern if they're not able to come onto the big stage and make a movie that's totally unique. So I would say they are
Mhm.
being unique maybe in these little TV shows, but it sucks that it seems like they're kind of relegated to only doing it in like um budget spin-off series on Netflix and stuff.
It's just I think to do the Marvel Cinematic Universe right, you need to give a lot of creative control to a small amount of people. Like George Lucas with Star Wars, It's like you have to take a huge risk and at some well, okay, tell me what you think. But what
I was saying, I'm not even like don't even necessarily want to sit here and say they did it wrong.
Mhm.
I just kind of want to say like the right thing done too many times is wrong. So like I think like how they did it wasn't that bad. Like maybe I'm not like the target audience for like to be a Marvel fanboy and like be like super hyped that Avengers Endgame's coming out, but I would say like that wasn't too bad. What they did, I think what they were trying to do, they somewhat achieved. But at a certain point, you've got just so much content. There's so many Iron Mans. There's so many Guardians of the
Yeah.
Galaxies. There's so many Thors. There's so many spin-off series. There's so many Spider-Mans. There's so many Avengers. At a certain point, it's like, like they just don't want to give up the cash cow. I feel like it's kind of better that they just kind of chill and like maybe these producers just kind of put their money in something that's not Marvel for a little bit.
Okay.
I get that Avengers
That
is
I
free
agree.
money, but we
Yeah.
did Endgame. Chill. Can't we just take 5 years off? We did Endgame. That's cool. Let's give ourselves a pat on the back. Let's take a 5-year break and let's invest in other cool ideas because as they're just beating the dead horse and just milking free money out of it. And I feel like it's a little obvious at this point.
Yeah.
And this is where we're going to get into the point I had on my whiteboard was that people don't know quality anymore because they're just kind of like ingesting so much content that's just like constantly being pushed out that they just don't realize like, hey, this Marvel TV show is like actually not that good, and I should probably have higher standards, and I shouldn't just watch things because I'm bored.
Yeah.
I should search for things that are like actually entertaining.
And I actually agree with that, and I'm a big superhero fan. Like I love superheroes. I grew up, reading comics and just being in love with the shows. But I also love movies, and dude, I 100% agree that there needs to be more funding for like original, like movies out there. There's just not enough. You're right. It is all allocated to these big franchises. It's not just Marvel. It's like
And all
Star
the little
Trek,
spin-offs,
Star Wars, and all their It's like. I mean, and I would like if you told me this when I was 12, I would think that this was the best time to be alive. But to be honest, it's a lot of shit, and it sucks. And Lord of the Rings is now the new victim of that. It's just
it's like really, I don't want a Lord of the Rings TV show, man. Like, leave it alone.
Just leave it
like,
alone.
We already experimented with by making The Hobbit like a fucking trilogy.
Yeah.
And we just see how greed is gonna only like kind of tarnish the name. Right, we've seen what's happened with Star Wars when you feel like, oh, let's try to make a quick buck and make another trilogy, and it just turns to shit, and you kind of just, dampen what was good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate to hear about this, the Lord of the Rings
Well,
thing, to be honest. I wasn't impressed with like what they've shown.
And it's kind of like it's falling into something I've noticed. Like the Marvel, it's just so easy to mention Marvel because it's just been done for so long. But like what I was trying to get at before when I was saying like give creative control to a small amount of people, I'm saying I guess that's more of a personal opinion that I think because I started personally seeing like holes like in Iron Man 3, like I was telling you, where they weren't. In my opinion, would have been better if they started incorporating more heroes and maybe together, right? The heroes are already there, and instead of like just adding random heroes, just have more movies where it's like it was like Thor Ragnarok, where it had Hulk and Thor. It would have like Guardians of the Galaxy and Doctor Strange or something, like bring these people, like go all in on the togetherness. Or like Spider-Man. Spider-Man 1 was my favorite parts about Spider-Man 1 was when Iron Man was being a father figure to Spider-Man. Like I just thought that was so fucking cool, and they didn't.
Cool,
I felt like they didn't do it enough, but they did it. Like I liked that. That relationship, because you just like Iron Man from like 10 years, and of course he's gonna be a new father figure to this like this really talented and new kid superhero. So I like that stuff. And personally, I feel like what really bogs it down is that it started making a lot of money. So you wanted to keep making a lot of money, and then so you spend more money, and then you have to be careful with the money you're spending because it's a lot of investments in there. So you have a lot of people like being really scared of like, okay, we wanted this to work again, so we have to like, we kind of wanted like this, and you have more of like, you have more company oversight and more restrictions on these movies, and the more and more you do that, the more it's just gonna become formulaic, and I think that might have been the start.
Too big.
And that's what they do now.
Got too big, and now, yeah, I think they're a little addicted to the money as well, and with that amount of money comes a certain
you can't take risks with that.
Bureaucracy of size, pretty much, that's gonna come along with that.
I just think there's so much money into it, they don't want to take risks that often. Like I had an example. Like Christopher Nolan movies, they must be fucking insanely expensive. He seems to be one of the only directors, or very few directors, that could get Marvel fucking budget and make original movies. It's like, I don't even think you can be that original with Marvel with that amount of budget. So and same with Quentin Tarantino. I don't know who can get that much money and not have to go through a huge filter of corporations. So it's just, yeah.
That's true.
Are you looking on? Wait, let me.
I was looking up for what stuff he's made. I was just Christopher Nolan made.
I wanted.
And we fucking hated Tenet.
I didn't hate Tenet, but yeah, it was confusing. Wait, I want to know Tenet's budget.
Like a 6.
I didn't hate it.
Its budget obviously fell apart at the end because that CGI was whack.
Yeah, that was 200 million. Okay, let me see Black Widow budget. 200 million. Yeah, dude, holy shit. How is that movie 200 million?
The same budget as
dude, can you believe that this shit movie, Black Widow, they spent 200 million on? That is, how many good movies they could have funded instead of this shit? This fucking shit, dude.
That is unfortunate.
Anyways, so yeah, I also wanted to no funding for original content. Okay, I mean that kind of goes with that. They're like, yeah, I don't know. It's just bad.
It's all being gobbled up.
That's why we have to make our own movie company, bro. That's
and
why.
Part of that and I think part of this is a consumer problem. So I don't want to say like the whole lack of quality thing. Yeah. People need to be more picky about what they watch. What you watch is what makes money. So when people are just like, "Well, I have nothing to do. I'm just gonna watch. I'm just gonna watch this show." It's like, no, dude. Find something to do with your fucking time. Because if you spend all of your time just binging garbage, then garbage makes money and garbage gets made. That's part of the problem. If a new Marvel movie comes out, like Black Widow or Wakanda Forever, and you're like, oh, this is getting a little ridiculous, I'll go watch it. I have nothing else to do. Like, no, they don't know that when you go and watch it.
That's
if you go and watch these things, then they're going to assume, they make good money. I guess you can give them bad ratings, and I'm sure they do take that to heart. I mean, if it catches fire in media, like the hate for Star Wars did, but fuck, Star Wars made a lot of money, man.
Yeah.
The new ones. So they're probably not going to learn a huge lesson from that ultimately, unless you kind of stick to your guns and say, like, I don't think this is good quality. I think you're putting out, I don't think you're trying that hard. I don't think you're being that creative, and I'm just going to use my time on a different hobby.
I don't know what happened. Like, there's a lot of shit out there. If just stuff is easier, like it's easier to make stuff or what, but yeah, people just, like, I consume.
It's easier to consume stuff.
I do consume a lot of crap personally, and I should stop. I think that's
for me, like, there's nothing stopping people from going back and consuming old content, which is still really good. There's a lot of content from the 90s in the early 2000s, which is legitimately good and at least on par with, Black Widow or something. So why not go watch that instead of like watching Black Widow, which they've just kind of like
It seems like the
probably
half-assed.
paid advertisers to plant the
Yeah.
seed in your head that you want to watch it. Like break out of their cycle. Just go watch something old and maybe not that great either. Like
Yeah.
Blade or some Punisher, some old movie like that that's probably at worst just as good, and kind of show them that like you make something better, you make something new, or I'm not going to watch it.
It's
I just think that's really hard for people to do because most people
yeah.
don't, you know, care that much,
Yeah.
because at a certain point, like, what difference are you going to make? It's easy for me because this new stuff just bugs me. So I'm not even interested. But if you are interested, then it becomes like a lot harder to like kind of
I mean, like
make that decision.
I'm very much interested in Marvel's and superheroes, but I even I have like a new Marvel movie gets announced, I'm not excited. New Star Wars, I'm not excited. Like they broke me, you know?
Well, I
I
mean, new Star Wars. Well, I'm never excited when they say
yeah.
new
Dude,
thing of an old idea. Like I'm always like, oh no, dude, it was
yeah.
good the first time. It's gonna be a. There's no way it's gonna be as good the second. There's just no way.
It's I don't know what it is. Like you have so much we have so much in front of our face. Like I have TikTok downloaded, I have Twitter, I have YouTube. I spend ungodly amount of times on you amount of time on YouTube compared to like any other streaming service.
hmm
It's just I don't know what message that sends to people who are making movies, but it's not it can't be the right message because I don't like I don't know who comes up with what we should push next. It's like I see less Quentin Tarantino, less Christopher Nolan, and more just more of dude. It's more and more of these fucking franchises, man. I'm like I should be again. I
Everything's
should
a
be
trilogy.
loving this. I should be loving that Lord of the Rings has a fucking show. I should be loving that Star Wars has a sequel. That there's all these superhero movies, but I'm not. You know,
I don't
like
think you. I'm gonna kind of disagree with that. I'm not gonna necessarily agree with you there. I think a book is better because you get to the end of it. You know.
Mhm.
I think that's kind of important. A story has a beginning and an end. I don't think you should necessarily be excited that they took the end of your book and moved it farther, and then we're gonna add another 100 pages, up another 100, up 50 more. Okay,
Yeah,
150
okay.
in a different direction this time.
That
Like
makes
I don't
sense.
think you should necessarily be happy about that. You finished a good book, like wow, that was a great story.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep it encapsulated in what it is. Finite, we're humans. Like we are finite. That's what makes everything. That's what makes things taste good, right?
Yeah.
Because you can only taste it so many times. There's diminishing returns and everything.
Yeah.
So that I'm actually going to fight back against that. That you should be happy that there's more. Like no, I actually don't think you should be. I think a little bit too many people. Well, I actually do think I've seen trends of people starting to hop on the side of like let's stop remaking things a little bit. I do kind of see that,
Mm-hmm.
especially like maybe in video games.
Yeah.
But
Really?
no,
You do?
I think it's totally valid to say,
Mm-hmm.
no, don't make more of what I like. Like in a specific IP, anyways.
I have to think about that, but I mean, I should be agreeing with you because the evidence is in front of me, right? They made more, and
I
it
would
sucked.
say,
So, yeah.
if you have something you really liked, it doesn't necessarily mean I want a sequel to it. Like when I think of like all
Yeah.
my favorite animes,
That's
when they
true.
come to a
That's
close,
generally true.
or I think of like when you watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy and it comes to an end, right? Because that's when the book came to
Yeah.
an end. Do you think like, oh man, let's just have one more just for fun? Like no, like that's when the story was supposed to end. These are mortal characters who have mortal lifespans and they have a finite amount of experiences in their life which they're going to have, and you can experience those and then you can stop. You know,
You
can't just
know-
keep fitting stuff in.
You know, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but at the same time, I'm like, I have this thing inside of me that wants more. And when I think about things that should end, is like, yeah, Lord of the Rings should end. You shouldn't be like making a sequel to Lord of the Rings. That's not what the show is. It's like it's expanding on the lore that's touched upon in one of his other books or in the Silmarillion that he wrote. I don't know how they're gonna make a whole story out of that. I'm pretty sure most of that book is just like, you know, it's like a history book of the world.
Yeah, they're just reaching probably.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I shouldn't. You know, there's a difference between like expanding the universe and like having a sequel, but it seems like both are. I don't know. They're doing both.
Both are
and they're
dangerous.
failing. Then yeah, that's a good way. Yeah,
Both
both
are
are just
pretty
dangerous.
dangerous.
But your exact example is the Star Wars sequels, right?
Well, and another issue
Awful.
with that is like they felt absolutely compelled to tie them in.
It's just it's
To the
unnecessary.
previous ones.
It
Right?
felt
It was
unnecessary.
totally shat on it, right? Like already when they're doing it, I'm like, okay, you're taking a fucking fantastically well-established franchise that has
Yeah.
not had like really any new cinematic, content added for a long time, and now you're gonna add stuff. This is a big risk. Um, but I think maybe the right way to do it um would have been much more difficult than what they actually did. I think it would have
Yeah.
been to do their own thing,
I think
honestly.
I think I can agree with that. It's really hard. Okay, so I know I 100% agree with you when it comes to like new stuff, like new IPs coming out.
Mhm.
There is again a trend of, okay, this has to be a trilogy, or this has to be like, there has to be a sequel to this. Just let it fucking end, like a Quentin Tarantino movie. Just let it fucking end, you know? Like I
Yeah.
can't imagine having a sequel to like Inglorious Bastards or something, even though the war ended. But you know, that's a weird example. But still, it's just like, come on, let shit fucking end. But when it comes to
Let
like
shit
Marvel
die.
and Star Wars, though, it's like it's been so many decades that people have been like adding to that universe. It's like you kind of always expect more, but you know, think about it now. It's like, what if there was an end to the Marvel Cinematic Universe? What if Endgame? What if they planned it perfectly, where
It's
Endgame
literally
was
called
just the
Endgame.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, in a universe where they're not
That'd be
so
crazy.
greedy,
That might actually, yeah, that might
in a
actually.
universe where they're not so greedy, they do Endgame.
That's
They end the game. They're done.
They end the fucking.
Wasn't that the whole point? Wasn't all this was coming to this singular point? We hit this singular point, and now there's no real reason for the universe to move on unless we just make up reasons, which I mean that's kind of like what comic books do, I guess,
Yeah.
is on to the next villain.
But still, it's
But
just
at this point, when you've
You
already
saved
defeated
the
guy and
fucking
snapped his
universe.
fingers and dissolved half the universe,
Half
we're gonna
the-
find something cooler than that? I don't think we are.
Yeah. Yeah. So no. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. I guess to our next topic, woke politics. No, I'm kidding.
Oh God, no. Honestly, I think we covered.
We've
some
almost hit
pretty
an
good
hour.
Ground.
We-
so,
Just won't shut the fuck up, bro. That's our issue.